Be sure to friend us on Facebook. You can do it right now. Visit facebook.com/World Talk Radio or search for us at keyword World Talk Radio.
The following program is being brought to you on the World Talk Radio Network. For more information about our network and to check out additional show hosts and topics of interest, please visit worldtalkradio.com. The World Talk Radio Network, where the world comes to talk. The views and ideas expressed on the following program are strictly those of the host or guests and do not necessarily reflect the views and ideas held by the World Talk Radio Network, its staff, and management.
Get ready to pump your energy and jumpstart your dreams with positive, uplifting, life-changing talk radio on the world's most popular power hour, Star Style. Be the star you are. The Oprah of the airwaves, Cynthia Bryan, and her sidekick daughter, Heather Brittany, deliver lessons of success spanning the generations of the globe in their information-packed Tea for Two, a mother-daughter brew. In other segments, Cynthia interviews real-life trailblazers, authors, and experts with the courage and vision who show you how to build a road to fulfillment through their unique books and services. You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll be informed and entertained. For your free lifestyle empowerment coaching session right here on the airwaves, turn up the volume, relax, sit back, and get ready to be inspired. Because Star Style, be the star you are, starts right now.
Never say never, live your dream.
Well, never say never and live your dream. That is the motto here at Star Style. Be the star you are. On our Power Hour, my name is Cynthia Bryan.
And I'm Heather Brittany.
And we are happy to be your success coaches and helping you through the day to live your passions, your possibility, and be more perseverant, because we are a show about following your heart. The Miracle Moment for today is brought to you by Star Style Productions, coaching you to be the star of your own life. For more information on getting a private coaching or consultation over the phone or through Skype or in person, call 925-377-7827 or visit starstyle.us. And this is from Alan Cohen. Why live in a soap opera when you can star in a great love story?
Oh, I love that.
I like that one too. Well, welcome back, Heather. We sure missed you last week on the show. It's never the same when you're gone. We sure hope that you had a wonderful time while you were away from all of your fans here.
Oh, yes. It's great to be back.
It's great to be back. I know. What would we do without our show here on World Talk Radio? Well, we have a great show for you today. Heather's going to be giving tips on how to be prepared for any blackout or any emergency for that matter. Author Miriam Slozberg is using astrology to help us understand past lives, especially those that would have occurred under Nazi Germany and Hitler and in the concentration camps, with her book, Stars Behind the Tortured Soul. And in segment 3, we're going to give a tribute to Steve Jobs, information on the upcoming National Essay Contest, and, of course, more food for the spirit. We are really sad. I am very sad at the death of Steve Jobs, although we know that he lived his life every day as if it was on the edge, and so he died fulfilled. But he's leaving all of us behind, rather sad, being a huge Apple fan and Pixar fan. He was just an innovator and a genius of our time. So we'll talk more about that in hour 3. So as we're going to go into the darkness, feeling powerless, as Heather would like to say, it was a recent experience that she had that I thought that, we all think that we are prepared for fires, or here in California, we're prepared for earthquakes. And so we think, okay, we might be prepared for other situations. And of course, as we've seen of the recent hurricanes and the tornadoes and the floods, sometimes no matter what you do, you're not totally planned. But do any of us ever plan for that emergency full power outage? I mean, imagine how helpless you feel when it's not just you, but it's half the state or several states that are alone in the dark. The cell phones are jammed. You can't get any gas at the gas station. And as far as you see, the only lights might be headlights. So if you run out and talk to your neighbors, what do you do, Heather? So you lived through this. You survived it. And I know that in being in San Diego, there weren't too many problems with this surreal darkness, but I think it's a great idea to be prepared for the future.
Yeah, not to be too cliche on anything, but it definitely brought light to something I never...
I like it.
But I'm pumped. That all the time, we've been really conditioned, especially growing up in California, to have just the overall belief of the emergency kit. And, for fires, for earthquakes, evacuating, your house. And you always, there's that thought that there will be power outages, but you never really believe that it's going to be your entire county or half of the state or stretching all the way out to another state, which for, many Southern Californians just a couple of weeks ago was a reality. And it was something so unexpected and no one really planned for that, and you kept thinking the power was going to go on, and that sense of fear that sets in when there is that unknown, when you don't know what's going to happen, why it's happening. That's why in a lot of situations, violence starts, and people start to kind of get that survival mode of, oh my gosh, if there's no water. And really, once the dust all settled and the power came back on, about 12 hours later, it really sort of brought to light because there were a lot of times when I thought, wow, I'm so unprepared. And the first thing, kind of talking today of how to prepare, kind of really to expand on that disaster kit that we hope you all already have in your house, because no one ever, you should always plan for this, but that's why accidents, these things happen. They're unexpected. You never know exactly when a fire is going to happen or an earthquake. So it's best to have all that stuff already ready in a safe spot that you can access it. One really big thing I learned from the blackout is the access of money. We live in this digital age, and truly, and you realize too of how reliant you are on everything that is electronic and has some kind of power fuse connected to it. Something I realized is I am a big person. I never carry money. It's a rarity I ever have money. I think I was just kind of told safety things, no one's ever rob you, or I like putting everything on credit. I'm earning credit. But when the power goes out, you slowly or very quickly learn that everything is by credit card. And for whatever reason, earlier that day, I had filled up my car with gas. And I try to make it another rule of thumb, try to never drive around with your car with less than half of a gallon of gas. Not only will your car drive better if you do keep it at that level, but as well as an emergency like this. You don't know if the power is going to be out for 10 minutes or 10 days. And with many of the gas stations today, everything, even if you're paying inside with cash, everything is digital. So when the power had gone out, suddenly no one could get gas. And I realized, too, if the power was out, machines, no one's going to be accepting checks at this time because there's really no way to verify if your check is good. You can't access ATMs because, again, they're all digital. They're all using computers. And cash is really your go-to. So something I recommend is, in essence, kind of going back of always having some emergency cash, but at least put a $20 bill or however you want to break it down in your little emergency kit. So that way you don't have to have that excess, rainy day cash, just truly an emergency cash that if the power was to go out for an unknown amount of time and you needed to get gas or you need to buy something, immediately you have cash because who knows when the power will go back on that you'll be able to go to the bank or be able to use credit cards again.
And that's such a really good tip, Heather, because so often we have become very dedicated to our credit cards, and almost everybody just spends more time with their credit card than with cash. But in any emergency situation, we have to have something like that because this is a world that is based on electronics and computers, and if the computers go down, no one is going to be able to help you. So I think that really is a very important one. I wanted to say something, and I had told you about it, about especially, I thought this was a great idea, and it was actually my sister who gave me this idea, is to get some solar-powered lights, just the lights that you keep in your garden, because they are based on sunshine, and you'll have at least a little bit of light if you are walking into a house that's total darkness. I thought that was a really good idea. I didn't even think about it.
And I mean, and that leads to, we always say, make sure on hand you have various, you've purchased brand new batteries, make sure you have flashlights for the house, excess candles and lighters. But something too, a lot of, you can buy pre-made disaster kits, and actually, how we discovered at work, we have truly the apocalypse disaster kit. It's pretty cool. It was the first time we got to open it because we were looking for a flashlight and for a radio. And what we found in there was a radio that not only did it accept batteries, but let's say it's a disaster time, the batteries run out. It had a panel on it that could be solar powered. So you have it outside, you put it in the sun, and then now you have this radio. So a lot of things now, they even make flashlights like that and saying that eventually, even if during these disasters, if the power still isn't back on and now your batteries have gone out and the candles are dead, that they have these things that with solar strips on them, put them in the sun, or if you have another flash shining on it, and that can give it power too. Kind of, really planning ahead, and it's very...
What a great idea. Those are really neat. I think anything that is going to have solar, because obviously in an emergency, you don't want to, perhaps light a candle. What if you've had a gas leak? Now, obviously, if the power just went out with what you're talking about, you're not going to have a gas leak. But if it was an earthquake or a hurricane or a flood, there's damage to your home or your building, that could be dangerous to light a candle.
Exactly. So always, be aware of your surroundings. For us, it was truly that the power, it was this kind of fluke thing that had happened all the way back out in Yuma, Arizona. And so there was no, it wasn't related to a fire or an earthquake or anything. It was truly just a crazy power outage. Another thing is when it comes to water. So technically when the power goes out, you should have no problem. You should even still have heated water as well. But what's something to keep in mind, definitely do have an emergency kit of water, because granted, your municipal water system shouldn't be affected. But what happens in this, actually, I powered up my little radio with batteries at the house, is if the sewage treatment plants, if their backup power fails at a water treatment plant, the water may become unsafe to drink because sewage can go into it and it's no longer treated. Now you're suddenly getting unfiltered, untreated water. So on the radio, they were actually issuing, telling people, people living in this and this area, your water is safe. People living in this and this area, please, if you're going to be drinking that water, boil it, try to use bottled water. So the FEMA, which is the Federal Emergency Management Agency, recommends to store at least 1 gallon per day per person. So that may sound like a lot of water storage. So I honestly, if you have a laundry room or a garage, a shed, kind of just make a small little space that you can build up as your little emergency area. You can go to any grocery store, buy those big, big gallon waters.
But, I want to interrupt you here and say in the water, before you just go buy water, because water can go bad, if you use bleach at all, or Clorox, but just regular household bleach, when those bottles are empty, just fill them with water and stick them in your garage or your closet, because that actually will keep the water purer longer. So that's just a kind of a quick tip in there. They come in gallons and 2 gallons.
That's great. And something to consider too when you're thinking of water, also include pets as well. And also in that emergency kit of food, that we say, the stuff that isn't going to go bad. And if you've made an emergency kit that has, canned foods and granola bars, do a monthly or yearly check if God given that no emergency has happened, because stuff does have expiration dates, even, if it's not fresh thing. So make sure, you have stuff labeled. Every year, if nothing's happened, have that yearly check or monthly check to make sure you have fresh, stuff that is still sustainable, so that if something does happen, you don't want to open it and say, oh gosh, this expired in 1987. So
Well,
make sure
all
you have a
great
healthy
tips. We're already out of time, as we always do run out of time. So let's give out, just wind it up with one final tip, and then let's give out the websites.
Last thing is always, it's just we've always said before, you never know when any kind of emergency is going to hit. Always have a pair of stable shoes and socks next to your bed. That way, in the middle of the night, if something's going to happen, that way you can throw on your shoes. You never know if there'll be glass or anything, and you can get out of that situation.
And
So
that's a great one. I did that after the earthquake, and it's still there. So good
definitely
tip,
go
Heather.
to our websites. We want you to go to BeTheStarYouAre.org, BeTheStarYouAre.com, as well as ComedyCoaches.com, both with a K.
All righty. Well, we really love all of these tips that Heather has, and we thank you so much for doing that. Heather, when we come back from break, we're going to go to Nazi Germany, find out how astrology can help liberate a tortured soul when author Miriam Slozberg joins us. I'm Cynthia Bryan.
And I'm Heather Brittany.
Stay with us. This is so fascinating, and you just have to hear it. Back in a bit.
What's going on behind the scenes with your favorite World Talk Radio show or host? For the latest news, visit the iRadio blog at iradioblog.com.
Apathy, violence, and negative messages are everyday occurrences in our country. You can be a change maker when you dare to care by supporting Be the Star You Are charity, a 501c3 that empowers women, families, and youth through improved literacy, positive media, and tools for living. Visit www.BeTheStarYouAre.org to find out how you can make a difference in our world. Everyone counts. That web address again is www.BeTheStarYouAre.org. BeTheStarYouAre.org. Are you living your dreams? Want to create a life you love but don't know how to begin? Lifestyle coach and personal growth expert Cynthia Bryan has jump-started the lives and careers of clients for over 2 decades with her signature Star Style consultations with personalized sessions by phone or in person. You'll turn your passions into profits. Visit www.CynthiaBryan.com or call 925-377-STAR. That's CynthiaBryan.com or call 925-377-7827. Cynthia Bryan is your guide on the side. www.CynthiaBryan.com. You can be the star you are. You're listening to the World Talk Radio Variety Channel.
Be the star you are. You are the star.
Positive, uplifting, life-changing talk radio. It's the Power Hour on Star Style. Be the Star You Are. Now, back to the show with the Oprah of the airwaves, Cynthia Bryan.
Look for the sign.
You will be so happy that you stayed with us right here on World Talk Radio and Star Style, Be the Star You Are. I am Cynthia Bryan, and our purpose in providing you this show is to communicate to you that you already possess everything you need to be the writer, producer, director, and star of your life. We also want you to smile, have fun, be willing to be wild and wacky, learn to connect with others who value empowerment, and learn from our experts and authors. Although I have no experience, expertise, or training in astrology, past life regressions, or know anything about reincarnation, these have always been topics that have fascinated and interested me. And since I first studied World War II and learned about the Holocaust, I have been horrified and appalled and incredibly deeply saddened by the atrocities that were perpetrated by Hitler and his Nazis, causing the torturous deaths of over 11 million people, 6 million of whom were Jews. Now, in her book, Stars Behind the Tortured Soul, author Miriam Slozberg offers explanations and case studies that connect and liberate a tortured soul through the use of astrology. It is fantastic. Welcome, Miriam, to Star Style, Be the Star You Are.
Hi, Cynthia, and thank you for having me.
Oh, I really was just deeply interested in this book. When I saw it, I was so intrigued because, Miriam, I'd never heard or read anything about how astrology could make sense of our challenging life today by looking at a past life astrologically And specifically, your book is geared towards Holocaust victims, although it can be used to explain any trauma in your life. So
Right.
first, let's start with you, because you have identified that in a past life you were a child in the Holocaust who was brutally tortured
Yes.
and starved and poisoned and then killed very young.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
tell us
absolutely.
how you came to that, and then we'll go on, from there to learn how this astrology works.
Okay. Well, it's interesting because most children are happy, like they're happy-go-lucky. Most children, but I never was. I was always so fearful and felt tortured within. And my parents were loving and everything, so there was no known reason for that. That you would, no known reason on the outside for that. And I've always just felt so fearful within. I've had phobias. I've had other issues, I had a rough childhood, and most of it was because of what was going on inside. Now, I had other challenges in my childhood, too, due to external factors, because of the fact that I must have projected the energies that attracted predators. In other words, bullying, right? So.
Well, not only the bullying, but you also had, I don't even know how to pronounce it, the emetophobia. Is that how you?
Well, that's
which is that was from your torturing
of
and
vomit and sickness. That's right.
Vomiting, because you actually witnessed children vomiting from the poison.
That's right. And that is one area in my life that I'm just not ready to face, and that's okay, because we have to heal, but at the pace that we're comfortable with, right? And that's exactly what I talk about in my book, that we got to heal. We have to make an effort to heal. We come back. We come back because we have to heal from like a traumatic past life experience. It doesn't even have to be the Holocaust. My message is for anyone that suffered from past life trauma. But the Holocaust is so prevalent as far as past life torture, and the challenges that reincarnated victims have. There's so many things in common that they have with one another.
Miriam, does everybody reincarnate, or do we choose to reincarnate?
No, we choose. Now,
we actually choose.
Yeah.
That was something I thought was really interesting. We're speaking to author Miriam Slozberg. Her book is Stars Behind the Tortured Soul, and she's also written another book, an autobiography. But this particular book, Stars Behind the Tortured Soul, offers case studies and information about past lives and how we can find out who we were and why we are who we are today in this life. So we choose. Now you connected with Rabbi Gershom, and he wrote this beautiful, incredible foreword for you, and also allowed you to do his chart, which I don't know how to read all these signs, and I have so many questions about it. But his circumstance was different than yours through the Holocaust, because he actually died in Russia, is what you think, right? According to what his chart says today. Is that how you figured that out?
Yes. I'm also clairvoyant because a chart will trigger images, right? Like past life images. So he had a more unique experience because he wasn't thrown in like Auschwitz or anything. He was just murdered. Like the Germans invaded and he was murdered, and he didn't even have a chance to be tortured. So I mean, he still considers himself as a tortured soul because he's always felt like he didn't belong. He's had other challenges, but his experience was different.
Well, and also he was also a child. So let's talk about, I mean, he never felt, when I say he was a child, he didn't get to grow into adulthood to work out anything from a previous life, right? Right. Yeah. And that's what I was just going to say. And there's where your connection is that you were both children. I found it interesting that your daughter, Jessica, whose chart you did, who at the time you wrote this, she was 8, in a past life, she was your mother.
Yes,
and she actually had to experience the loss of her husband and you. So she's a survivor. So she's different, but still tortured.
Yeah, absolutely. She definitely is, and I can see it. And she, I think some memories are starting to come through to her. She's 9.5 now, so.
Does that happen with children? Do children, when they're very young, do they often say things, Miriam, that would lead a parent or someone to know that they've actually been here before in a different body?
That depends on the circumstance. I mean, I think it's also quite fascinating how so many people who have who had severe trauma, especially if they died as children, come back with some like learning issue, like some form of autism or learning disabilities or something, because it actually is a protective mechanism. So children don't have these memories. That's why their brains are wired differently. However, when they're ready to understand what happened, if that's what they're meant to do, then they will at the right time.
Well, you know, that was something also fascinating in your book, and we are again talking to Miriam Slozberg, and her book is Stars Behind the Tortured Soul. Are we hearing more about autism and the spectrum and Asperger's syndrome today, or are more people reincarnating for those very reasons, you know, as a protection? Is that, what, do you have any opinion on that?
Yeah,
or maybe?
I do. I think it's a mix. I mean, I don't think everybody who has autism or ADHD or what have you had a traumatic past life. There's so many reasons why people have these issues. It could have nothing to do with that. It could be that this is their first time on Earth and they're like literally alien, right? It could be that. I just find it quite fascinating that so many people who died very young have these issues. Like I've noticed a trend. So and I have these issues too.
And you've studied so many of them.
Rabbi Gershom does. So it's incredible. I find it incredible.
When you did the charts, not only of Rabbi, your daughter, but the other women that you profiled in your book, something came about that so many of, I don't know if I'm using the right terminology because there's a lot of astrological terms I don't know, but the aspects or the planets or where they were so similar. It's like, is that common when we find tortured souls, or is that specific to Holocaust victims?
No, it's common with any tortured soul. I mean, there's usually a torture. Like everyone has been through torture. Everybody has. But the difference is if your recent past life was pretty traumatic, it's going to affect you a lot more than, say, if you had torture 5 lives ago, right? Because you would have likely worked through all that during the last
I find it really interesting, and I was reading your book, that you haven't found anyone that was an Aquarius that you thought might have lived in the Holocaust or gone through this. I mean, not to say that there isn't, but you haven't run into them yet. Why would that be?
You know, that's interesting. I just find that Aquarians are I don't think they would have gone through that. Not necessarily. They have a totally different set of, you know, challenges and goals, and you know, it's just totally different because they're quite innovative. And I believe that many people who are Aquarians lived on other planets very often. Yeah. So, I mean, I can't say that there's not.
How exciting. That would be very exciting.
I can't say that there's not. I'm sure there are, and I just haven't met any. But I just, I've never run into an Aquarius. That's right.
So tell us, what is the difference between a past life astrology and the natal astrology that we all talk about? Because, you know, I mean, it's like the common thing, you know, what's your sign? And people know their sun signs. They don't often know their ascendants or their moon, which all really ties together. But tell us how past life astrology differs, because it sounds like you start in a different house.
That's right. Well, first of all, I got to blame the horoscopes for for people being so narrow-minded about astrology, because there's so much more to you than your sun sign. I just want to say that much. But natal astrology just, talks about, like, it shows your challenges, it shows your gifts, it shows what your soul path is. And, you can look at past life a little bit, but it doesn't focus on that. Past life astrology focuses on your past life experiences, but it also helps you realize what you can do to overcome some challenges from those past lives and to utilize the gifts that you have in order to do that. And it helps. It really does. Now,
I was going to say, I think the two together would be really important to have done.
Absolutely.
So you could understand today by knowing your past.
Yeah.
And that could help you move forward in your life, right?
And you know what? With the past life astrology reading, you actually do look at your natal astrology too. Like, it is all tied in together. It's just you focus mostly on the past life issues that you have and why you have them and what they were caused from and how you can rectify it or you can make peace with it. Just like I'm not ready to deal with certain things like the emetophobia, that's okay because there are other things that I am tackling. And you're not going to, like, especially if you went through so much trauma, you can't, I can't say can't, but you're not so likely to attempt healing all at once. It's just too much.
Well, what is the difference really between, like you said that you're intuitive, and maybe you have some psychic abilities, a psychic and an astrologer. And so if a psychic were to tell you that you'd lived a past life and perhaps you were in a concentration camp or something, how can we quantify, qualify, how can you, be certain? Is there any certainty or is it all presumption?
Nothing's certain, but the fact of the matter is that if you just strongly know what you've been through and you just feel it, you can't deny it.
Yeah.
You can't deny it. Now, as far as psychics don't usually read the planets. A lot of them don't even know astrology. They have other skills that they use.
So what about, like, if you have deja vu? We all have this. I get this all the time. I'll be just doing something, all of a sudden, my gosh, I have been there, done that.
Yeah.
And I know it in my soul being. I know it completely. Is that all part of the past life that can be kind of pinpointed in astrology as well?
No, not necessarily. Now, deja vu does not necessarily have to do with past life memories. It can, but not necessarily. See, before we're born, we pre-plan our lives. Now, we do have free will, obviously, but we also take that into account when we're planning. But if we happen to run into a situation that we had planned while we were still in the astral before we reincarnate, that's like we remember it, and that's where deja vu comes from most of the time. Sometimes it can be past life, but yeah, that's I know.
It's interesting. It's just so fascinating. I was with my daughter and she just had this, she was cooking and she went, oh my gosh, I'm just having such deja vu right now. And I was like, well, where are you, what are you doing? She goes, I'm cooking and it's just, I've done this before. I just know what to do. We're talking with Miriam. Yeah, define it. We're talking with Miriam Slozberg, and her book is Stars Behind the Tortured Soul. Let's get back to Hitler and the Nazis because this was such a horrendous time. And I just know, as many people, I just know I have a real aversion to this whole time period. I have no idea if I was there in another life or anything, but it just appalls me to it's so horrific that a human being could gain this leadership when he was such a madman. Yet, when you did these astrological charts, what you saw is that the world was ripe for this kind of torture and inhumanity.
Well, it was a test. I'll say that much. It was definitely a test. It was a time of darkness. And what we're coming into right now is the opposite of that. We're actually trying to rectify those energies.
Is that because we're coming into the age of Aquarius?
Yeah, that's part of it, and just the rise of consciousness, right? Mm-hmm. So this is why there's so many natural disasters, because there's a lot of people that are resisting the energies, and it's spilling over this negativity. So there's so much friction, and this is what's going on. This is why this is what's going on with the economy, everything. So it's crazy. But it's like basically
what you're saying is that astrology, when we really do it properly, when you study it, is that it really can be almost a guidebook for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, it's something that more of us should be paying attention to. Don't you think?
Definitely. My suggestion is just to scrap those horoscopes. They mean nothing unless you want to get a good laugh. And if you're interested, read up on what real astrology is about, whether it's past life or current life or natal, whatever. Educate yourself, because it's not hocus pocus like
people think. Well, let's talk about, is it okay that you stay a little bit longer on the show here? Are you all right? Okay, good. So I'm going to just keep talking to you because I really, really am interested, and I know that our listeners are finding this very fascinating as well. So again, we're talking to Miriam Slozberg, and this book is Stars Behind the Tortured Soul, and it is talking about astrology, past life astrology, and specifically the book deals with the Holocaust and victims of the Holocaust and how the torture that happened and how they bring it over to this life. So how do we know if we were a victim of the Holocaust? Let's be specific.
Okay,
if
well,
we were
you know what? There's a lot of things that'll come to you. I mean, you're not going to just wake up and one day and say, "Oh my God, I was in the Holocaust." No, there's going to be clues. You're going to have aversions to certain parts of Europe, like Poland. That's one clue, and you cannot even. I mean, no sane person anyway can stand watching Holocaust movies, but you'll have a total aversion to it. That's a very common thing. Food addiction, because that's something that's quite common among reincarnated Holocaust victims, especially because they were starved. So that's another clue. Doesn't mean that everyone with a food addiction was in the Holocaust, but if all these clues are adding up, and you have even like bits and pieces of dark memories, it's got to be something. And a lot of people that are open to it will get it confirmed or get it read by a psychic or astrologer or whatever.
And then once you really do know that, how do you heal from it? I mean, did you ever read the book War and Remembrance?
I have not. No, I haven't read that yet.
Oh my goodness, that's Herman Wall. It's an amazing book, but I have never read a book, and literally, I'm going to say the word, I got up and I had to throw up. It was so violent and vicious of the torture that was perpetrated upon these people that I got physically sick, and I didn't even see the movie. This was just reading the book. So how do you, it had to be so horrible, so inhumane. You felt like an animal. How do you heal? Is it just a slow process by accepting it? It's a very slow
process. And another thing I want to add too is that most reincarnated Holocaust victims, or anyone that had past life torture, has very low self-esteem. And that's where it stemmed from, because, you were basically told you were no good, you were, beneath a human, even an animal.
You were subhuman. You were subhuman. The animals were treated better than...
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So that stays with you.
Oh, you can imagine that it would stay with you. What about Nazis? Are they reincarnating? I mean, because my biggest fear is...
I've actually become pretty friendly with a few.
Really?
Yes,
really?
And that's healing as it is. And these are the ones that are quite repentant.
Because they were these ones that were forced to do what they were told to do, or they did it on their own?
No, these ones were forced to do what they See, it's interesting. I feel that I was meant to connect with some of them too, to open my mind, because just like most people would think, oh, well, all Nazis go to hell. Well, I actually connected with a woman who was one of the high-ranking ones and just brainwashed. And it was a matter of life and death. She didn't want to do it, but she was terrified if she didn't, right?
Well, I imagine that it was a life and death, that if you didn't follow orders,
right,
not only you would be killed, but probably your families would be terminated as well.
That's why Oskar Schindler was truly amazing, because
he saved over 1,000 people.
Yes, he did.
And I'm sure there's many other people out there.
There were.
Both Jews, Gentiles, whatever, who risk their lives on a regular basis.
And they did, yeah.
And how are they when those people come back? Are they, what kind of life do they have?
They deal with the same kind of trauma, because those who those who tried to save Jews, especially in Holland and Denmark, they were thrown into camps, a lot of them.
Yes, right,
yeah.
Right. Of course, yeah. Because you weren't allowed to save anybody. I mean, if you saved somebody, you were as bad, quote.
Oh, yeah.
You were just as they were.
I believe that there were 10,000 priests and ministers that were killed because of it. So
it's a huge number. I want to give out your website, because it's a great place so that people can pick up a copy of the book, Stars Behind the Tortured Soul. It's using astrology to heal past life memories of the Holocaust. And that is liberatethetorturedsoul.com. Is that the website you want people to go to? Yes. liberatethetorturedsoul.com. And in the book, there is, if you don't know much about astrology, you start learning about astrology. I want to talk about for a minute, if you have this extra time, the whole idea of the planetary aspects, conjunctions, the moon, the ascendant. Because when I was reading, there was something interesting that caught my mind about, was it moons in Cancer, where you might, the person who is it born in Cancer or as a moon in Cancer, have come back specifically to be with particular people? Maybe you were a mother, it's that mothering instinct.
It could be either one. It could be sun or moon or even ascendant. It really depends on the rest of the chart too. But yeah, Cancer is a very, it's a very nurturing sign. And,
so people from Cancer, this is something that they wanted to give emotional and physical. They wanted to give more support or come back and have more support.
And those that were born with moon in Cancer may have had a very actually devoted mother in this incarnation, but had a real tie to thought about their homes a lot in their last lives and all that. So that's what you'll find with moon in Cancer. Usually sun in Cancer is when you connect with those that you were saying.
Those that have come before. So if you have your sun in Cancer, you might have chosen to be with this particular family or these particular individuals.
That's right. There's usually a lesson for every sign. So.
And what I understand from your book too, is that with these incarnations, it can be instantaneous, as with the rabbi, he came back very quickly, or it could be a number of years.
It's up to the soul.
It's up to the
really
soul.
Up to the soul, yeah, because there's no set time.
So when we decide not to come back, does that mean that we have ascended to a point that we have worked out all our life issues?
Not necessarily. There's a lot.
Really? Interesting.
A lot of newer souls are afraid to come back because they're afraid of something happening again. But older souls that have had many lives, that have more experience, realize that no, it's not going to happen, and this is the perfect place to deal with these issues, because you can heal in the astral, but really the hard knock lessons take place on Earth.
Well, and isn't that right? Don't we always say that saying is that this is a test. If it wasn't a test, we'd be giving better instructions. Well, with that, Miriam, I will let you go. I think your book is just fascinating. The name of the book, Stars Behind the Tortured Soul. We could actually devote an entire show to this because it is just really has so much to do, and there's so much about astrology. But if you need help, you also do consultations, don't you?
Absolutely, I do.
Okay, and is that the best way for people to reach you? Is through your website, liberatethetorturedsoul.com?
My website for astrology readings, I've got to redo it anyway. It's a mess. It's MsMirAstrology.com. MsMirAstrology.com.
That's easy enough. That's great. Well, thank you so much. And
thanks for having me.
Oh, it's been great, and I know that you're working on these issues and helping so many people with their issues. But what a fascinating topic, and really good to know that we can learn from our past and make our futures and our today better. So thank you so much for being on the show.
And thank
Miriam,
you so much for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Miriam Slozberg, Stars Behind a Tortured Soul. I'm Cynthia Bryan. We'll be back in a bit with a tribute to Steve Jobs of Apple Computer and Pixar. Stay with me.
Now you don't have to stay linked to your desktop or laptop. Take World Talk Radio on the go and listen anywhere. Get our mobile app for iPhone, BlackBerry, or Android at the Apple iTunes App Store, BlackBerry App World, or Android Market.
Business Bites. Here's Cynthia Bryan.
If you fear mistakes, you're bound to make them. Why? Because instead of playing to win, you're playing to lose. Taking the safe path can lead you down the wrong path. And if you're trying not to lose or make mistakes, you're going to come up short. This attitude becomes a crutch that will negatively affect your approaches in life. So you have to change your mindset. Get your ideas down on paper and make a checklist. Mistakes are the first steps to moving forward. There's no progress without mistakes. Just do it, because failure is success turned inside out. And actually, the more mistakes you make in life, the more successful you will be. You are the star of your own performance. Turn your passions into profits. I'm Cynthia Bryan with another Business Bite for Star Style. To book a coaching or consultation session in person, by phone, or Skype, call 925-377-STAR or visit starstyle.us.
Be the star you are. Light up the flame that burns.
Get a positive prescription for living and discover a cure for adversity when you make a difference in the lives of others by donating to Be the Star You Are, a 501c3 top-rated charity dedicated to empowering women, families, and youth through increased literacy, positive media, and tools for living. www.BeTheStarYouAre.org. All donations are tax deductible. www.BeTheStarYouAre.org.
Be the lucky star you are.
Now you don't have to stay linked to your desktop or laptop. Take World Talk Radio on the go and listen anywhere. Get our mobile app for iPhone, BlackBerry, or Android at the Apple iTunes App Store, BlackBerry App World, or Android Market.
Be the star you are. You are the star.
Turn up the volume, grab a seat, and get ready to be challenged, inspired, and motivated to greatness. It's Power Party time on Star Style, Be the Star You Are, with your hosts, the mother-daughter dynamic duo, Cynthia Bryan and Heather Brittany.
Well, thank you so much for staying with us here on Star Style, Be the Star You Are. That was such a fascinating segment. And I just want to thank everyone for staying tuned. Well, yesterday, a very big shining star in our galaxy has gone on to the big apple in the sky, the passing of Apple co-founder Steve Jobs. He was such an incredible, inventive, tenacious man, and most of us will never touch his vision and his branding miracles that he created throughout his life. He was an inspiration to everyone. I just remember, I just wanted to share something myself as an actor and model back in, I think it was the early 80s. One of my jobs, I did one of the very first Apple commercials and Apple print jobs. And I remember showing up on the set, and one of the guys had to be dressed up as an apple. And I don't even remember what my costume was, but none of us understood, why are we doing an ad for a technology that has an apple in it? And of course, soon that came out and we realized it was a computer. I bought my first Apple computer, became a huge devotee, started buying Apple stock even when it was down to almost nothing. I just really believed in Apple and have always loved it ever since, through, the clam and the MacBook and the iPods and the iPhones and everything that was about Apple. And it was all because of this brilliance of this gentleman who never graduated from college, who only went for a few months, and who really believed in his dreams. And I think the lesson that we can take away from Steve is that we have to listen to our intuition and let our guts lead us to our passion and our possibilities to create our futures and do what you love. It's something that we talk about here every single week on the show. Follow your heart. Be the best you can. Be the writer, producer, star of your own life. And this is what he said. When he had started Apple in his garage, I think he was 20, built it to $1 billion or multi-million-dollar business by the time he was 30, brought on extra people. I think he had 4,000 employees and a board of directors. He got fired at 30, which really changed his life, but he realized it might have been kind of the best thing to happen to him to get fired, because then he started Pixar, which is now one of the great animation, or the greatest animation studios in the world. And the message there is, again, to keep following your heart, doing what you love. Don't worry about making mistakes. There is no failure. Failure is fertilizer. Never settle. Just keep looking and keep seeking until you really find that passion in your life that makes you sing. And of course, we all know that it was in 2004, 2005, he was diagnosed with this pancreatic cancer that usually is just a couple of months long. And I always felt for him, because my dad also was given 3 weeks to live and was told to go home and get his house in order. And he lived a full 3 years. And I think that sometimes it's just because you live like you're dying. And if you live every single day as if it's your last day, you are going to live with passion and following your heart and doing what you love. And also, following the rules that we have set for you here at Be the Star You Are. Smile, have fun, and be wild and crazy, because you never know when that end is going to come, going to be your last day. So I don't want to have a life of any regrets, and I want to just honor Steve for showing us how to live in the moment, to keep your cool, to innovate constantly, to push the envelope, to think big, to go out on that limb and be wild and crazy, because he did pick all the fruit. And to his friends and his family and his employees and all his fans around the world, we all mourn with you, Steve. You were one in a zillion, and we're just honored to have lived at a time that you were our genius. So you will be missed. God bless. Thank you so much for being the star that you are, and you will be missed. Thank you to Steve Jobs and to his family and everyone at Apple. Long live Apple. With that, I just wanted to also remind everyone that we have the essay contest is starting next week. It is the 8th annual National Essay Contest sponsored by U.S. Bank. You're going to win dollars. You can win a spot on this radio show to be interviewed to talk about what you are doing. We have 2 topics: the world at your fingertips, which fits right in with Steve. Technology allows people to access and do so much more than ever imagined. How has technology changed your life? Is it better or worse? Or the second topic is hear me out. You got something to say, then say it. And what does it mean to express yourself so that others can hear you? How do you personally go about doing so? Express your opinions in an essay. So for submission guidelines, you can go to starstyleradio.com, click on events, and you'll see something for the essay, or go to btsya.com, look for the essay contest, or BeTheStarYouAre.org, and you can find the essay contest right there on the homepage. I want to thank you all for being with us today and being just great listeners. I want to thank Justin, my engineer, and everybody there at World Talk Voice America for allowing us into your life each week. You can change your life. You can make your dreams come true, and you can live your passions. For more information about Star Style, visit starstyle.us. To make a donation or get involved with Be the Star You Are charity, empowering women, families, and youth, go to BeTheStarYouAre.org. May there be peace within you today. May you be content knowing that you are a child of God, and let this presence settle into your bones and allow your soul the freedom to sing, to dance, to bask in the sun, because it's there for each of you. Heal yourself and go out into the day and know that no one's ever walked this earth with your exact combination of inborn and acquired strengths, weaknesses, skills, talents, as in experiences. You are one of a kind, and you are a star. And until we celebrate next week, my name is Cynthia Bryan. The show is Star Style, Be the Star You Are, and we encourage you to be the star you are. Gratitude to you. Until next week. Ciao.
Be the star you are. The star you are. Be the star you are. You are the star. Keep daring.
Thank you for being part of our star galaxy on today's episode of Star Style, Be the Star You Are. We hope you've enjoyed the commentary and are motivated to dream big, overcome obstacles, and realize your potential. For further information, visit www.starstyleradio.com. Join our power party next week right here on World Talk Radio as Cynthia Bryan, Heather Brittany, and the pioneers of the planet pump up the energy with positive, uplifting, life-changing radio. Until then, be the star you are.
You